Hello and welcome to another episode here in the capture part of the texture series. And in this episode I want to talk about this texture here that I have taken from a tree one time around 360 degrees. And I want to talk about the problems that might occur when you try to do this with a tree that is not as accessible as we like to have it when you have a hedge around and all of this. Because all of the little suggestions and ideas that I try to supply here won't work when the situation is against it. And so I choose this tree here, not this one, no, they're all three the same here. So leaving the Cinema 4D example with the texture behind us, and let's have a look here to the texture in Photoshop. And this texture here is half in resolution from the original. It's 4K wide. Just for the sake of speed here, I used a smaller one. And what I have done here is one time around the tree. And of course, that has some problems that we will discuss during the capture episode here. And I want to show you, of course, here with that texture that we can have here an offset in horizontal way. And we will not see any seam here. So I can move this here around in a way I like, and it will have always a continuity here in the texture. Horizontally, of course, only. I have not improved this for a vertical one. That was not the target here. And this is, of course, an example from a tree, just to show you that we can shoot one time around the tree and it makes sense. And how to do this and what I think can help or should help is, of course, part of this capture series. So let's get started with checking out the images in Lightroom. First of all, the shooting starts with taking the light temperature that we have, and that is of course a little bit tricky when we want to go around a tree, where to take the light situation. And my suggestion is, of course, after you have set up everything for the lighting situation, that means diffuser, reflectors and all of that, you find maybe a spot that is average. If you don't, if you have a very shadowing place and a very bright place on the other side, maybe you take two captures and then figure out which works the best for the color temperature. Of course, we try to get as much light into the shadow area and diffuse as much light in the sun part of the whole picture if we have a sunny day, which is of course given here in California more than often, but that is different on places all over the world, of course. So this is the tree here, and as you can see, we have not the space to just take a long lens and shoot one time around. And that is, of course, exactly what I wanted to show you here. We have here a lot of green stuff, and that is exactly something that we can't just take away. And to say we don't use the part of the tree behind is, of course, one way, but the target here is to go one time around and get even happy with a wide angle lens. And that creates finally a situation where we have to shoot stripes here. And the smaller they are, the more precise it is, but that means also the more work we have. Finally, we can see here we have sun spots and we have shadow spots here. That's very unfortunate. Of course, we are happy to have light here, but this situation here determines finally a very specific mood inside of the picture that we take from it. So we have the need to take here just a diffuser inside, and of course we can't see a thing here. This is the diffuser, and now we can see here this area here is nicely diffused. We don't have the bright spots here and we don't have the shadow spots. This helps us, of course, immensely to get a nice capture. And I have shown you other pictures where we had some diffusers and some reflectors in the background, and I have tried to get here without away with it, and it worked because it was a hazy day. But normally I would suggest to have a reflector and a diffuser in combination with that. As some of you might not go step by step here through the series, I think it's maybe a good refresher to have here that shortly in the picture. So when the light is too harsh on one side and too dark on the other side, my ideal is, of course, to catch the light from the sun here with a silver reflector and then lead this light through this diffuser here. This is not happening here at the moment, so you have some shadows here, but I've shown you that before. This is a nice little trick to get really a super bright light and then diffuse it, and when the direction is fine with some stands, you get a very nice light. And of course a reflector where it is possible, just underneath, otherwise you get all this green tint here into the picture. So this helps here as well to get rid of some color spill or whatever you like to call it. And you can see here I have a very large one, folded gold and white. I would suggest, if possible, lay the white stuff around if you have maybe here only green. I had luck here to have these stones here, which gave me a relatively neutral light already, and that was pretty much the only advantage that I had here. But you see here there's a lot of stuff around. With this large diffuser I got pretty much everything covered that I wanted to photograph here, and as you can see this is a 16mm lens, so it distorted here a little bit. It's really a huge one. It's as high as I am, or as tall as I am. And with the C-stand here, of course, always with weight here, because this is like a sail. When wind goes in, that flips over. Not very funny, so weights always on C-stands and clamps wherever possible. And to get always these tubes here out of the level where eyes can be. Always very important. When they have to stick out, put a clamp on it so you see where it is and it's not too late. It's dangerous, really. So with that situation here and with a little haze in the air, I got perfect lighting situations here. And as I normally suggest, shoot detail and overview images. That is very important, especially when you work in a team or when you just shoot this stuff and you have no idea who is working later on the whole material. This helps everyone in the team and it's done very fast, just 4 or 6 shots, and this might be huge information when someone has no idea what you have done, especially when you shoot just little stripes from it. That is more or less confusing after a while. So what I have done here is, of course, one time around just with a wide angle lens, 16mm here, and I have put pins here inside of that tree very carefully, not into the living area, just where it's dry and dead. And so I had here color pins, and always the next one here, for example, is blue. Then I have a red one here. Let's check this out. Very carefully put in. And this gave me then something like a structure. Of course, it would have been much nicer maybe to have here just a colorful ribbon around and here, so we can see exactly what we are doing. Or another idea would be just a laser that you use on a construction company. But the laser idea is always a little bit critical because it's not very healthy to look into these guys, and it's not very healthy for the sensor. It's really easy to destroy your camera with a laser. Have an eye on that, or better not, as you like. So just to finish up here my detail shots one time around, you see here all these pins, very helpful, and they are small enough to be stamped out later on. And it really has helped me because I've tried it before. Just I thought, okay, I will see how it goes, and no, it's too similar here. Even if we have all these nice patterns, I had to do everything again because I thought I can do this just fast and quick. So these are the overview images, and I want to go here one time through the whole thing very quickly. And you can see here I have tried to stay always in the same distance. That means I have used my arm as a measurement, and I was always close to touch the surface of the tree, and when I had this distance I started to shoot. Most of the time from the same height. I screwed up from time to time about some inches, but that's maybe normally when you have no tripod, and that was a big problem, I would think, because the stones were pretty much against everything that would call a stand, a tripod, or whatever. So I go here one time around, you see the little pins, and the light situation was pretty nice here. I have adjusted this already a little bit in the exposure to get here similar values, and I have done this when you take a look here based on the histogram. So every time I saw that the histogram is a little bit different to the right or to the left, then I have changed it. Of course, you need to be able to read it. For example, here, this little spike is this area, and we do not care at all about this because we want to have that middle field here, and that's pretty clear where that is layered. And you can see here also that anything that is here spiky, again, the white stuff, and the color of the tree is pretty much this system here. Blue on the left and red and yellowish on the right side, and everything in the middle is pretty much mixed, and this is exactly the color. So if here would be now something very reddish or so, we would get here, when it is very bright, a very red spike with no other colors in it. So we can identify even here in the histogram what we have done. And this is of course possible, as we talk here about capturing in the camera, so you can see what you're doing and what is really for you the important part. Again, I get not tired to tell you that it is important to know your camera, because you have certainly 1, 2, or 3 or 4 different exposure methods: point, average, or the whole thing, and then average to the middle, or whatever your manufacturer thought is a good idea to have. Get familiar with this one, and it's very important to really understand how your camera can see the world, because it's just a machine, and whatever the engineers have decided that is important will finally determine your work. So this is one time around. I have shown you already the final result, and as this is the capture part of the whole thing, I do not want to show you how to slice this now up. This is part of the post-production series, or post-production part, and this would be then part number 3. So let's hop to the next episode, where we take a complete different object in front of the lens. Thanks for listening. Have fun with it. Bye bye.